Ladrones, the island of thieves. This was the name given by the Spanish and the Portuguese to the area around Hong Kong, which was filled with pirates, crawling with miscreants and smugglers and all manner of barbary. The traders made deals with the imperial government in exchange for rooting out these pirates, and in doing so established favourable trade conditions with the Chinese, and a permanent settlement in Macau. The names of these pirates are still famous in the Pearl River Delta: Zhang Yi and his wife Madame Zhong, who ruled the pirate confederations and the enormous Red Flag Fleet. Before the British arrived, Hong Kong was mostly a small fishing community and occasional haven for pirates. They had come to buy Chinese goods such as tea and porcelain, which was highly prized back in England. The conservative Chinese government, however, restricted trade with foreigners to the port of Canton, or Guangzhou, and local officials taxed imports at very high rates. The bankrupt East India Trading Company soon found itself at a huge trade imbalance, buying highly prized Chinese goods with the only payment the Chinese would accept: silver. In an effort to correct this imbalance, the British began smuggling opium into Canton, which is the only thing the Chinese were interested in buying. This effectively reversed the trade imbalance and created an epidemic of opium addicts. Things soon spiraled wildly out of control when the Chinese clamped down and destroyed British opium without compensation and cut off food supply to the traders in an effort to drive them away. So the British decided to leave. Just kidding, they stayed and were eventually attacked by Chinese ships on the island of Hong Kong. Now, I don't think the Chinese are aware that you just don't mess with the British Navy in the 19th century. The British sent in ships and soon won the so-called Opium War, and China was forced to hand over Hong Kong Island to the British, as well as abolish the Canton-style import taxes and open more trading ports. The first British institutions began showing up, mostly churches and missions to spread Christianity. When mainland China became embroiled in conflict, the British invaded Beijing in an attempt to force the handover of the Kowloon Peninsula to give Hong Kong Island a buffer zone. And then, in 1989, they leased the new territories surrounding the area for a period of 99 years, or as good as forever. As Hong Kong grew, it began heavily westernizing in education, government, and even culture. The differences between Hong Kong and China began growing as the mainland became more and more unstable. Hong Kong's defining moment came during the Second World War, in which it was invaded and occupied for 3 years by the Japanese. More than 1 million people fled or were deported by the Japanese, who ruled Hong Kong directly by the military. British rule was then re-established after the Japanese Empire was defeated, although it was now a shadow of its former glory. However, its saving grace came with the Chinese Civil War, after which many of the wealthy business owners fled the communists and took refuge in nearby Hong Kong. As the prosperity of a nearly unregulated capitalist society took hold, so too did inequality skyrocket, and hundreds of thousands flocked to the prosperous island, living in poverty and extremely dense living quarters. Fires and diseases were rampant. When the West blockaded trade with China for its support of North Korea in the Korean War, Hong Kong had to do a complete 180 on its economy. Hong Kong's wealthy white-collar elite turned to finance, consultancy, electronics, and manufacturing, which caused a huge boom in prosperity. Hong Kong became ridiculously wealthy in the next few decades and earned its nickname the Pearl of the Orient. In the 70s, it became much more progressive, with landmarks such as equal pay for men and women and social programs to subsidize education. Life expectancy rose and corruption fell. Uncertainty over Hong Kong's future began with the lead-up to the lease expiry in 1997, in which China demanded not only the new territories, but Hong Kong Island as well. At the negotiation table, Margaret Thatcher secured a deal on the One China, Two Systems policy, by which Hong Kong would remain largely self-governing for a 50-year handover period. So, as it remains today, Hong Kong is still largely independent, with its own economy, currency, passport, and is functionally a country for all intents and purposes. However, nobody really knows what will happen after the handover is completed in 2047.
Okay, that's all from our meeting for today. So any question about our new business plan, please ask.
May I know that we need to apply anything from government agency to proceed to this plan?
Yes, good question, Dennis. We need to get the approval from the Hong Kong government for succeeding our business plan and get their support for this business plan. You will be in charge to get their approval as soon as possible, and when it's done, please update to me. Thank you, Dennis, for your good effort in order to get job done.
Okay, then we will proceed to this plan.
Okay, that's all from our meeting for today. So, any question about our new business plan, please ask.
May I know that we need to apply anything from China government before we proceed to this project?
I'm sorry, but why China that we need to get their approval for this business plan? Because this is Hong Kong, not China. And right, we need to get the approval from the Hong Kong government for this business plan. So Dennis, you will be in charge for getting the approval from Hong Kong government as soon as possible. Thank you, I appreciate your work.
I'm sorry, and I will not ask question like that again.
Hi, I'm Omar Ashraf. Now I'm going to explain about Hofstede in Hong Kong. First is uncertainty avoidance. The dimension uncertainty avoidance has to do with the way that a society deals with the fact that the future can never be known. So we try to control the future or just let it happen. This ambiguity brings with the anxiety, and the different culture have learned to deal with the anxiety in a different way, to extend to which the member of the culture feel threatened by an ambiguous or unknown situation and have great belief and institution that try to avoid this is reflected in the score on uncertainty avoidance.
Okay, I will explain about indulgence, which means is one challenge that confronts humanity now and in the past is the degree to which small children are socialized. Without socialization, we do not become human. This dimension is defined as the extent to which people try to control their desires and impulse based on the way they were raised. Relatively weak control is called indulgence, and relatively strong control is called restraint. Cultures can, therefore, be described as indulgent or restrained.
Next is the long-term orientation. This dimension describes how every society has to maintain some link with its own past while dealing with the challenges of the present and future. And societies practice these two existential goals differently. Normative society with score law on this dimension, for example, prefer to maintain time-honored tradition and norms while viewing societal change with suspicion. Those with a culture with score high, on the other hand, take more pragmatic approach. They encourage thrift and effort in modern education as way to prepare for the future.
Okay, about power distance, this dimension deals with the fact that all individuals in societies are not equal. It expresses the attitude of the culture towards these inequalities among us. Power distance is defined as the extent to which the less powerful members of institutions and organizations within a country expect and accept that power is distributed unequally.